Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever or whenever you happen to be listening to this. Thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based event and wedding photographer, Tavishima Ayede. So, thank you guys for catching today's recording. Over the last couple of days, we've been going over important questions of whether we should talk to strangers when trying to drum up business, how we should talk to strangers for the first time, whether you should or when you should identify yourself. And yesterday, I believe we looked at the matter of if we should freestyle or have a framework, a map, a sketch, a plan, whatever it is, when you're going into these conversations. And I hope I've been able to convince you guys so far that yes, we ought to talk to strangers. We just should make sure that we're speaking to qualified strangers. So that is that they have done something in the past that shows that they might be interested in our product or service. And so because of that, we can pick up the phone, send that email, do whatever it is we need to do, and not worry too much about bothering them. Should you identify yourself? I hope I convinced you guys that the most important thing is that we need to confirm that we're speaking to the right person and that what we have, that's, whatever it is that we do, whether you sell insurance or you're a wedding photographer like me or you're a wedding planner, you want to confirm that your services are indeed needed and are suitable for them. And on the question of whether we should freestyle, I hope I've been able to convince you guys that you're better off going in with a rough mental framework about how you're going to guide the conversation, or else you're going to spend a lot of wasted time and not be able to guide the conversation towards the desired end. So today, I want us to look into the question, should you always follow that script? Now that we're in agreement, I'm assuming that we should have a script, a plan, a framework, a draft, a whatever it is that you want to call it. Should we always follow that script? Now, in my own opinion, I think there are going to be situations where you have to stick to the script, and there are times when you have to vary your approach. But by and large, of course, it's going to be robotic, and you're going to come across as a nuisance if you insist on following through with your process, and your client keeps, the prospective client you're talking to keeps asking questions that will involve you moving along to different parts of your presentation. Let's put it that way. So, bottom line, you should always play this by ear, but always keep your framework, your script, your plan, your draft. Always keep it handy. If it's written out, always keep it front and center. If you're just if you're walking through the whole thing mentally, always have it. Always be cognizant of it so that you don't stray from what the main point is and from what the goal is. So, as a general rule, I would recommend that you should stick to your script if the potential prospect that you're speaking to is unaware about who you are, the product or the service, and if they have some time on their hands, that is, if they are patient. But on the other hand, if you call and it sounds like you're talking to a sophisticated prospect, so if I pick up the phone and I call someone, it looks like this person has already done some research about wedding photography. They know what it is that they want. They've done some research, and it seems like they're in a hurry. Then, of course, I'm going to vary the approach. I'm not going to stick to every single item that I wanted us to run through. So let me give you an example. Meeting with someone who was a stranger. Well, not a total stranger per se, because I got to meet him through a wedding planner. And the fellow was an architect. This was a couple of years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years back. And we were going to be discussing about his wedding. And so we sat down, and in a very straightforward, business-like manner, he went on to say, I'm going to change the names now. He went on to say, okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ede, for taking this meeting. Before we got here, I had already mentioned to buy your A, B, C, and D. So my assumption is, are we here for another pitch? So the moment he opened up the conversation that way, of course, I knew that this is a pretty sophisticated dude. And so we could just cut through the bullshit and go straight down to brass tacks. So my response was, no, we're not here for another sales pitch. It's just to qualify, to make sure that Madam is fully on board and that my understanding of everything that Bayo told me so far is correct. And he said, "Oh, okay, cool. In that case, can I call Madam now?" I said, "Yeah, please do." He put her on speakerphone, and in 3 minutes, we were done. It was not a fit. We were not going to go ahead. And I had my video guy with me as well because they wanted to discuss the video. And then I was able to introduce my video guy into the equation. They had a conversation, and they were able to sign up the deal for wedding videography, but not photography. So you can see how in this particular case it seemed like this is a sophisticated dude. Between him and the wedding planner, from what he said, I could tell that they've done some research. They've really considered a few things, so I could cut through straight to the chase. In fact, he even used a term that is familiar in business and sales circles, which is the word pitch. Well, I'm not surprised that he'll use that word because since he's an architect and he works in the commercial space, it's the sort of thing that they do. You meet with a client, you say, "This is your idea, this is how I think we should go with the house," and blah blah blah. Basically, you make a sales pitch or presentation or whatever it is, and then your client has to say yes or no to it or start working through things. So once I heard that word pitch, I just knew that he's one of my people, so I can cut straight to the chase. And when I said, "No, we're just here to qualify to be sure that Madam is on board," he didn't say, "Oh no, what does qualify mean?" He used a like term in business circles, and I knew that he would know the meaning of what it is that I said once I used the word qualify. So this is one case where I was dealing with someone who was sophisticated and he was in a hurry, so we're able to leapfrog several parts of the script, go straight to the point, leave there with some money on hand for video, even though we didn't get to make progress for photography. On the other hand, if it turned out that he wasn't as sophisticated or unaware regarding my services and he had a little bit more time on his hands, then we'd be able to walk through the whole thing of we'll be able to walk through the whole thing, the typical conversations about wedding dates, what the perfect vision is, have the budget conversation, what else, on and on. Whatever question you typically ask in your own space, whether you're a planner or photographer or a makeup artist. So as a general rule, when you're speaking to patients, that's just the way that I flow for now. If they're unaware and they have time on their hands, then by all means follow your script. Make sure that you cover all the essentials. If they're sophisticated, sounds like they've done some research and they're in a hurry, then vary, skip, go to the more important points. Now, if you notice, with one underlying assumption that we're going with so far, if they are sophisticated and in a hurry, but you didn't have a framework or a script prepared ahead of time, if it looks like they're hurrying you on, you just get bamboozled, you stammer, you stutter, you're not sure where to move to next. But if you had prepared mentally beforehand that in this conversation we're going to go from A to B to C to D, and the person says, "Look, I'm running out of time, just cut to the chase," you'll be able to know that, okay, A, B, C is covered, go straight to D, or go straight to F, or go straight to whatever is more relevant at the time. And that was exactly the case of what happened when I was speaking to those two individuals that inspired this whole series. The banker from Sterling Bank who called me about interest-free banking, or what do you call it, personal collateral banking. I can't remember what the other terms were. And the fellow who wanted to sell agricultural produce for our second family company, which is Dove Agro Seeds. So for the banker, it was not a problem. Once we got into that, I was referred to by, he was referred to me. How does it go? The other way around, by a family member or an associate who thought I could use their services. I was able to say, "What's this about?" And we're able to skip all the preliminaries, go straight to the point, and we agreed that I was going to come through the branch, get a date and a name for who it is that I was going to see to be able to verify all the information. Now, on the other hand, the fellow who called and said, "You're speaking to," I'm going to change the names, "You're speaking to Chukudi Amuli from Delta State." when I when I try to cut straight to chase, I can't remember exactly what it is that I said, but it typically would have been something like, "What's this call about?" He stammered, he stuttered, he fluttered around a bit before getting straight to the point. And I think it's because, really, beyond the whole thing of his grand introduction of you're speaking to Chukudi Amuli from Delta State, he didn't have a solid plan on where to go to next and how the conversation was supposed to go. But the fellow from Sterling Bank, not surprisingly, I mean, of course, he's a banker, so I'm sure they received some training on this. I'm sure he had the script. And so once I tried to hurry him along, he was able to move the conversation forward and were able to make some progress. So that's it today, and that will be the final word on whether you should always follow your script. I hope I've been able to convince you guys on that. And I think I have 2 or 3 more items that I would like us to look at before we go back to the prior issues that we were discussing before we started on this. So we're going to look at, in the next set of recordings, we'll look at whether we should have follow-through actions planned ahead of time, and then how to close the call, how to end this call. So you've hit up a stranger via the phone, via DM, via email, or whatever. How do you wrap up this conversation? So I think, so that's it. So thank you very much for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja-based event and wedding photographer. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I don't take it for granted. And I'd like to say thank you guys for paying attention, I should check. I don't think we've hit our first year anniversary yet. But as it is, we've gone over 1,000 downloads. And I'd like to say thank you very much. Thank you guys very much for making all this possible. So I didn't expect that I'll hit that milestone quite soon. So after making yesterday's recording and sending and sharing out the episodes, I was quite surprised when I hit the stats page and then I saw over 1,000 downloads, and that was quite a trip. Now I know that 1,000 downloads is probably not much when you're looking at well-established podcasters, but for me, especially since this is a business podcast, not a gist podcast, 1,000, that is no small number. So thank you guys for being here, for listening, and for joining me in holding down the fort on moving the gospel forward when we talk about things that are sales and personal selling related. So thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.